Captain's Log Supplemental. It's been a long day. Mostly uneventful, although, to be honest, I'm so out of it, I don't know if I would be able to tell. Every year, the senior officers and I, we get together for this very, very complicated and involved board game. A good session will take about 10 hours. Yesterday took about 14. We started on time, but boy, by the time we finished and got it all cleaned up, it was 03 before I got any sleep. And then, of course, my shift started at 06 this morning. Usually we play on, the first day of the weekends, but scheduling conflicts, it was a whole thing. Of course, my victory at the game did take the edge off the pain today. Nothing a little more coffee won't solve.
Welcome back to another episode of Captain's Log Supplemental. My name is Rob, and I'm joined by my two friends and co-hosts, Stanford.
Hello.
And Chris.
Hey there, ho there.
Captain's Log Supplemental is a Star Trek rewatch podcast. Each week we cover another episode of Star Trek, marching ahead in chronological order by star date. As a fledgling podcast, well, I guess we can't really say that anymore. We're in second season now. But either way, woot. We'd appreciate you taking the time to rate and review us on your podcast supplier of choice. Those ratings go a long way to helping us reach other Star Trek fans. So this week's episode...
hey, this is a terrible podcast. Hey, listen to it. It's fine.
Oh my God, I would love some more hate mail, because all I get is this shit from John, which is good, but it's also like, I know John. I know what he's going to say. He did point out that we did not note that Clancy Brown was Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, which I actually did not know.
Wait, is he really?
Yeah, he's also the Kurgan from the original Highlander movie, which I was like, oh shit, I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years. God, what a great movie.
I feel like SpongeBob for us was like the just after the time in which I would have watched SpongeBob.
Yeah. I watched a fair amount of it with my siblings because they're like 13 years younger. So I did watch a fair amount. And like, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's totally fucking him.
Yeah, like my youngest cousin was a huge fan of SpongeBob, but I don't really know anyone else who watched a lot of it.
SpongeBob is good shit sometimes, man. It's one of those, it's like firmly in that era of TV where it was like, this is for kids, but it's also kind of not.
Oh, like Rugrats.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, this one's for after you go to bed, Sprouts.
Oh, Grandpa. All right. So this week's episode of Enterprise was Minefield. Boom. Yeah.
Don't worry. We're eating in the first scene.
Yeah, that's right. First scene kicks off in the mess hall. And I didn't realize this. The captain's table is like attached to the mess hall. I don't know why. I assumed it was attached to his quarters.
I assumed it was near the mess hall. It was kind of nice to see that nailed down geography there though.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like in Voyager it was on the other side of the mess hall, like on the other side of the galley.
This scene just made me want to eat Eggs Benedict.
Oh my God. Eggs Benedict
I love Eggs Benedict.
Sounds fucking good right now is my second note here.
Kelsey had some this weekend. I was so jealous.
Mine was hell yeah, Eggs Benny.
Mm-hmm. We have
so.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say we have a brunch place we order from sometimes on the weekends, and they got like 3 or 4 different kinds of Benedicts. It's pretty good.
Delicious. So yeah, Chef Ed prepared his famous Eggs Benedict at Archer's request. Archer sharing the captain's table with Malcolm today. Malcolm is clearly just incredibly uncomfortable with this whole situation.
He looked sleepy. Like, yeah, he was like all squinty the whole time.
Yeah, like I've noticed this sometimes with Reed's actor. He tends to overact, and the results are hilarious.
They got to use the hell out that salt shaker though.
Yeah. I liked the call that England had made it to the finals of the World Cup. They've been terrible. Well, I don't want to say terrible. I don't know that they've made it to the finals in like my entire adult life when I've actually been paying attention to the World Cup. Like, it's wild.
Well, Chris is hacking into the Pentagon to find out when the last time England was in the World Cup.
He is hacking it, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
1864. Sorry, Chris. It's called football in England.
The time they won was 66.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's been a while.
I can't even see anything since then.
They haven't had a World Cup since then. It's just been that one.
Anyway, so yeah, they're enjoying their morning meal together. Morning, afternoon, I don't really know.
I guess
I'm assuming morning because of Eggs Benedict, but
like Reed brings like work to the table, and Archer's like, "Didn't your mom ever tell you not to bring your homework to the table?" Who the fuck's mom ever said that? I've never heard that in my entire life.
I have also never heard that, but I had a unique upbringing, I guess.
What?
Just not a ton of family dinners at the table.
Wait, what?
My parents worked night shift.
Oh,
so.
That's right. That's right. Your parents were night shift nurses. Oh, well, nurse and pharmacist. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's depressing.
Yeah, growing up and hanging out with Rob, which is like, people were always like sleeping during the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a lot of being as quiet as humanly possible while also having fun.
It also means I saw your dad's unusually short robe a couple of times when I was over there in college. It was like a periwinkle color too. It was.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, Mr. Beach is coming down the stairs.
Yeah. The awkward breakfast was broken up by T'Pol calling Archer to let him know that they found an uncharted system along their route, which is impressive because stars are bright, like famously. I don't understand how they could not see it, but whatever. So Archer gives the command to drop them out of warp so they can check it out.
I mean, I guess charting means like actually like going in and seeing what's there as opposed to just like taking appearance on the old telescope. I
guess. I don't know. It feels weird.
It feels weird. It's like, where's this star? I don't see it on the map.
Right. So they find a planet that's got a line of volcanoes across the entire hemisphere, which terrifying.
So is the Ring of Fire on Earth not a line of volcanoes that circumnavigates the hemisphere? Like, isn't that what that is?
It's not the whole hemisphere.
It's pretty goddamn close. It's like the US and Japan and stuff around the whole Pacific.
I guess so.
It's gotta be 40% easy.
Yeah. Yeah. The Pacific is huge too.
I do like though that even at just like a completely empty planet, they still managed to fuck it up.
Yep. So after making note of that, in what is clearly just the actors kind of like spoiling for time, we get an explosion and a huge chunk of Enterprise is now exposed to space.
Explosion!
And follow up with some Faith of the Heart.
Once again, pretty jarring tone shift. It's like boom, bang, dun dun. It's been a long road.
Like at this point, I feel like the writers are doing it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
So yeah, a whole bunch of the port side of the ship winds up getting decompressed. Fortunately, like aside from some scrapes and bruises, no major deaths.
Nobody died, but there were definitely some major. Like people were unconscious. Hoshi swooned.
Hoshi had a. Oh man, she had a concussion that prevented her from going back to the bridge, which important later, I guess. But turns out not that important. I don't know.
I don't know. Really. This whole sequence of them like dealing with all these bodies made me like they need more stretchers. Like they had like one, and then everybody else was just buddy carried into the med bay.
Yeah. I mean, they also only have one actual doctor, so
where was what's her face? The
Cutler,
one that Cutler.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
She's like the secondary doctor because she's a biologist.
Yeah. So no sign of what happened on sensors. As noted, 17 injured, no fatalities. We get a scene of sick bay that Stanford had mentioned with Phlox tending to the wounded. Back on the bridge, Archer gets a report from Travis that something was stuck on the side of the starboard side of the ship this time. Turns out it's a cloaked mine.
I like how someone's like, I'm not reading any. I think it was T'Pol. Was like, I'm not reading any biocides. And my first gut reaction was like, is it a good idea to scan a mine? That seems like a great way to start setting shit off.
Yeah. Like I would imagine at this point there are probably mines specifically configured to go off in that specific situation.
Right. And I like I will say to the credit of whoever's writing for Reed here, because Archer's like, is it active? And Reed's like, there's no reason to believe it's not active, which is like good ordnance policy. Like that is what you treat every bomb as if it's active.
Yep. And that's why Malcolm volunteers for the EVA. He's got ordnance training.
After Archer goes, it should be me. What the fuck?
It's like, I'm clearly
doer.
the most...
He had to do.
Like, there is absolutely no universe where it makes sense for the captain to go disarm a bomb instead of the armory officer.
No, it's fine. That's totally normal. Shut up.
So we get a scene with grapplers, but unfortunately they don't fire them for our bingo players at home.
They still got them. I like how it was clearly like they had the decloaking things on the grapplers and they just hadn't gotten around to removing them yet.
Yeah.
Because they're just are those still there? And Trevor's like, yeah, I think so. Like, we'll try. I was expecting like a bag of tools or something to come out, like someone was about to disassemble them but hadn't gotten to it yet.
Just a really disappointed engineer.
They took them off and just like a stump that comes out.
And why, like, while they're doing that, why do we have these weird camera angles on Reed putting on his suit? Like,
I don't know. Maybe they were trying to like play him up as like the sexy British guy on the show.
Fuck, maybe.
I think it's like just like a bomb defusal like suit, basically. I think it was like supposed to be that type of
like an EOD suit
imagery. Yeah.
Oh,
that's how I interpret it.
It felt very heroic in kind of a weird way because he was just putting on a regular EVA suit. And also, it requires entirely too many buttons to open any doors inside that airlock.
Yeah, it does.
It's like 7 or 8 buttons in a specific sequence to open some shit.
They gotta remember the code.
Yeah. Which he did like backwards through an EVA suit, which is impressive, but also stupid.
Yeah, you figure someone would hold the door for him. T'Pol is back on the bridge trying to adjust the probes on the grapplers that they used. It was a couple episodes ago where they were using them to detect the Suliban.
I believe
that
was
the finale, right?
No, I think it was the yes, it was the finale. It was before.
Shockwave.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was the season opener or the finale, but yeah, I believe it was the finale.
I mean, it was both. Part 2 was the season opener.
I wasn't sure what part of the episode it was in, whether it was in season 1 or season 2.
Gotcha. So Reed sets out onto the hull, finds the mine is magnetically locked onto the ship, but the sensors are broken, so it doesn't realize it hit Enterprise yet.
I like how, by the way, they just like turned off the gravity before he even like left the ship. It's like, it's gonna float on out of here.
Oh, that's what he did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what the second set of buttons were, and I was like, is that like an elevator? Because he kind of floated up, but I was like, no, he's not really attached to anything. Oh, he turned the gravity off. See, it makes sense for that to be a few button presses, because like that's not something you're doing every time.
I keep forgetting that it's the hull plating that makes the gravity in Star Trek, and like all of a sudden it makes sense after I think about it again.
It's not. We have to correct that because my dad's memory is terrible. It is not gravity that holds ships together. It is force fields. That's what a structural integrity field is. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, I know what a structural integrity field is. So like his brain thought it was a gravity field. It is not. It's a force field. So when the next time we hear from him, you can boo him to his face.
Okay. Boo.
Putrescence.
Queen of filth. Shit. Also, I wanted to point out that like each plate had its own like serial number on it, like very large. What was that?
Accurate. Oh, that's the assembly, man. That is how things are assembled in like shipyards and machine shops and shit.
Yeah,
Your
I was gonna say, I would have
car
expected
has
that.
all that. Like if like it's somewhere, and it does make sense for it to be a really big number on the outside of the hull because like
It's a really big ship.
Well, it's not only that, but also like you've got people
We're in a big
working
ship.
on the outside of the ship who need to be able to see that stuff, as opposed to just like a car where like, you know, a person can kind of stick their head in where they need to.
I've just never seen it in any Star Trek before that I can remember.
This is also like the closest analog to old Earth Navy out of all of the
fair.
series, I would say.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So Archer talks to Trip about potentially just removing that whole section of the plating that the mine stuck to,
Trip
just in case Malcolm can't disarm it.
Trip shows up and Archer's like, "How we doing?" He's like, "I did a head count. We didn't lose anyone." It's like, is that Trip's job? Like, is he like roll call with like?
I don't know if he's the supervising engineer on staff.
So his job is to count
Maybe.
the entire crew?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was specifically talking about engineering. I didn't realize he was talking about the whole crew. I mean, he's one of the commanders. So, like, I could see that being his responsibility.
It's specifically T'Pol's responsibility. That is her job.
Oh. Well, she was reprogramming mine detectors.
That's fair.
She was busy.
Mm-hmm. Then we see a Romulan ship pull up next to Enterprise.
And actually, Archer was the one who was like, we can just attach the hull plating. And I'm like, that's a surprisingly good idea from Archer.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed that there wasn't a fucking bird painted on the bottom of that ship. I was so upset.
the old-fashioned bird of prey thing. Yeah.
Big old fucking bird painted on the bottom.
Yeah, we'll get to see that in original series.
Yeah, we got some time on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, oh, a Romulan. Okay.
Yep. So here's where Hoshi's concussion comes into play. T'Pol can't get the translator working, which kind of hilarious. This thing never actually works.
So I was under the impression, and maybe I am wrong, that Vulcan and Romulan were close enough that they would be able to like recognize a few words. I know they're not the same language.
Also, I was kind of going this route too. I was under the impression that they knew about each other because there were, as I recall, Romulans are like a divergence from Vulcans.
Yes. Yeah, and she did because she's like, it's pronounced Romulan.
But yeah,
they know of them, but they don't understand that they're related yet, and that's going to come into play in my deep dive.
Oh,
huh?
Oh,
I thought they did. I thought
me.
that was just a known thing from the start. That's weird.
Nope, they don't find out until the original series that they're even related.
Even though they look fucking identical.
Even down to their stupid hair.
And their yes, exactly. And their dumb shoulder pads.
And the robes.
And their dumb shoulder pads, yeah.
Hoshi's got a concussion. Phlox won't let her return to the bridge, and T'Pol can't get the translator working. So naturally, the Romulans start firing warning shots past the Enterprise.
Yeah, why? So, like, they couldn't understand what the Romulans were saying. Fine. Why didn't they hop on screen or send a message back being like, hey, we're working on it. Hold on. We're trying to figure this shit out. But instead of just like,
They tried. Well, I shouldn't say that they tried. This is like an important part about the Romulans up until the original series where Kirk first gets one on screen. Nobody knows what they look like because they never open video comms.
Which is
everything is audio only.
They do in this episode though, right?
No, they don't.
I don't think they opened the video. I think they just...
Did I imagine that? Maybe
they were just talking. But the thing is, like, it's not like the Enterprise tried to talk back at all.
Oh, yeah. They just listened and complained about not being able to understand them. You're right.
And so, like, they're getting impatient. So, whatever.
Yeah. So Archer decides to bail and just tells Travis to take him out of the minefield on impulse.
My note here is, what the joystick?
Yeah. Malcolm is continuing to be very confident in his abilities to disarm the mine, right up until Travis's steering causes another of the magnetic arms to punch through his knee, impaling him to the hull, and this was gross.
Yeah,
it was pretty awesome.
It's got to get better reflexes, I gotta say. I mean, come on.
I don't blame Travis because the view screen seems completely worthless for what he's trying to accomplish.
Yes,
yeah,
accurate.
like all of the mines, they get like that little holographic shimmer on them, you know?
They look
but,
like
it's got to be a pain to see like depth perception wise.
every single mine in that view screen looked like it hit the ship.
Yeah. Yeah, the cameras are, it's like that whole like objects in mirror are closer than they appear thing. Like I got to imagine that there's a little one of those on the view screen up in the bridge.
Objects in mirror look more cinematic than they appear.
Captain Dewar heads up to suit up and go out to help Malcolm as he originally intended.
Meanwhile, we got a good shot of like greasy, dirty Trip, and he's giving me feelings. Like he's just does not wipe his face a single time.
What we missed off screen was Archer like bumping Travis as he was steering to make that happen so he could go out there.
Don't worry, Archer specifically fucks up several times later. So
this was intentional, yeah. Phlox kind of minimizes the entire bit of conflict with Hoshi not being on the bridge by offering to go get her the comm logs, which is funny.
That is funny because she's like, I gotta go up there, and he's like, no. He's like, why don't you just do it here? And she's like, oh, I didn't think of that. And it's like, okay, she has a concussion. She's not thinking straight. Nobody thought of that. Not a single fucking person.
Like, why didn't they just pipe the voice into the med bay for her?
Into the med bay. Hey, everyone stop screaming in pain. Hoshi has to listen to this.
I mean, that may be why.
Maybe. Archer reaches Reed and starts to attempt to administer medical aid, which is basically just him going, here's the morphine injector. Have a blast.
Feels good.
They then start up a fresh session of keep talking and nobody explodes with Reed behind the manual and Archer attempting the defusal.
You missed Reed being obnoxiously British. Because he like
gives the whole episode.
That's his entire character.
Yeah, but he gives him the shot and he goes, "Oh, thank you, sir. May I have some more?" Like,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, producer.
Does that count as Reed as weirdly British?
Yes. Yes. If you're checking that off on
Reed
your
as
box.
weirdly British, yeah.
Because it is so fucking weird.
And did we do Reed wants to blow something up? Did that happen too?
No, he's specifically trying to keep it from blowing up.
Yeah.
Okay, just clarifying.
Yeah, this is unfortunately the opposite of that square because I also have it.
Yeah, this is very atypical for Reed. It's unfortunate.
Thanks, producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also makes a really dumb joke because he's like,
we
might have to leave your
stuck here joke.
You might have to leave your leg here, and he's like, well, hopefully Chef won't get a hold of it, and he'll make it for dinner or whatever. It's like, what the fuck are you talking? What was that a joke? What the fuck are you saying? What?
No, I think that counts as being weirdly British.
No, that does. That's probably a British joke.
While we're on the topic of bingo squares, we do get Phlox uses medicinal animals in this because he talks about how the one guy's going to have to wait his turn for the worm thing.
Yeah, for the worm that's getting overworked.
Yeah,
man, I have none of these squares. This is not fair. One. I only have one. All I've got checked off is horny. That's the free one.
Free square.
Oh god. So where were we? Oh yeah. Hoshi, back in medbay, manages to decode the communication. It turns out the Romulans are trying to tell the Enterprise to leave the system, that it was annexed as part of the Romulan Star Empire, which T'Pol immediately recognizes the name, as does Archer, because he saw it in the library on Earth, I guess it wasn't Earth. I don't remember where that was.
Alternate universe, Earth.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, at this point, it sounds like the Vulcans are aware of them, don't understand the implication.
There's a moment here where, because Hoshi goes, it's something called the Romulan Star Empire.
Yeah.
And T'Pol goes, it's pronounced Romulan. And my initial reaction was like, because like obviously I know it's pronounced Romulan in the Star Trek universe, but like I was like, nah, Hoshi probably got it right. She got it straight from the fucking source.
Yeah.
Like, T'Pol doesn't fucking know, Yeah. So I'm like, actually, it's probably pronounced Romulan if that's what Hoshi heard. Like, she's the one. She translated an entire sentence that she had never heard in a language before. And she's like, the Romulan Star Empire. Like, yeah, all right.
I specifically thought of that story you told us about your visit in Kentucky where they said, oh, honey, you mean Versailles.
Oh, my God. Did I tell that on the podcast yet?
No, but there's a Versailles, Missouri, too, by the way.
So I'm in Kentucky or near Lexington, and I'm trying to find this town because I got to pick somebody up somewhere. And and this is before I had a GPS that was reliable. So like I couldn't just punch it in. I didn't have a smartphone because it's like 2005 or something. And so or 2008. So I pull into like a bank, like a pink bank. And I'm like, hi.
What's a pink bank?
PNC.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
PNC, pink bank. So I go inside the bank and, I go up to the teller. I'm like, hi, I'm actually looking for some directions. She's like, sure, baby. How can I help you?
Oh,
and
boy.
I'm looking for a town called Versailles. And she's like, Versailles? And I'm like, yeah, Versailles. Versailles. Oh, honey, you mean Versailles. Oh, yeah, that's right down the road, about 3 more miles. And I'm like, I'm sorry, did you just say Versailles? And she's like, yeah, that's how we pronounce it. I'm like, okie dokie. So like, oh boy.
I'll be on my way, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Versailles here, it's Versailles.
Oh yeah, in Kentucky it's Versailles.
Not far off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the part, by the way, where T'Pol mentions that they're an aggressive species and that Vulcan hasn't made direct contact with them yet. So
okay.
they still don't know who they are.
But they do know how it's pronounced, apparently.
Yeah, totally. We cut back to Archer helping out Reed. The calipers that they gave Archer for this look like Fisher-Price toys. I just want to point that out. They are huge.
And, like, I'm not a professional bomb disposal dude, but, like, are disarming sequences always these, like, elaborate riddles of movements and, like, weird components and shit?
Yeah. Yeah. We played that game on Steam. This is how it works.
Oh, fuck it. Stop talking or keep talking and nobody explodes or whatever. Oh, what a great game.
Reed gets a little touchy when Archer starts prying into his personal interests and hobbies as a way to, like, keep calm. And it frustrates him because Reed received training to not fraternize with superior officers.
Oh, man. He was, like, doing this. I'm like, oh, fuck, am I Reed?
Yep.
But he's right, though. Like, fuck those people. And like right after this, Travis refuses a direct order. Like, go take a break. Nah, I'm fine, Captain. Like, what the fuck? No.
Archer talks about a prior CO who shared Reed's opinion and Stanford's. But given the years that they're out here on this mission, like potentially for the better part of a decade, he thinks it's important for them all to get familiar with each other and comfortable. Archer
of course,
really
Archer wants to get familiar.
Yeah, that makes me uncomfortable, actually, specifically.
Archer says that... Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was going to say he just wants you to be much more comfortable with his raw, hairy chest.
He's like doing a lot of shoulder rubbing.
Yeah.
Unsolicited, of course.
Archer says that he appreciates the input of his senior staff, and Reed says that he's too lax. Archer then admits that his command style lacks a certain spit and polish. That's a funny turn of phrase.
I fucking hate that turn of phrase. It always makes me feel weird.
Talk turns to Reed's family history in the Royal Navy. Reed has a fear of drowning. And that's apparently why he never joined the Royal Navy.
Aquaphobia, sir.
Aquaphobia. Archer, I guess, did his homework on Reed's history because his father and grandfather both served in the Royal Navy.
Mm-hmm. I want to point out that this is the moment where Reed is explaining the next step of the bomb defusal, and he says, turn it clockwise. And then Archer immediately turns it counterclockwise.
Excellent.
So, like the whole, like, emergency, like, rearm sequence later, I'm pretty sure it's just because Archer fucked it all up. Like, he wasn't actually listening.
That's got to be, like, a weird bit of, like, fan lore in the background.
Oh yeah, I'm sure someone justified, like, well, in Romulus the clock goes the other direction. It's like
these weren't actually like Romulan mines, were they? Though
I think they were.
The impression I got was that they were in fact Romulan mines, but they are old, which is why their cloaking technology.
That's why I thought they weren't Romulan mines, because it seemed like the Romulans had said they just claimed that planet in Romulus, and there's just like these old mines from like the former civilization floating around.
Maybe.
Oh,
Although
I
they
didn't
have
catch
cloaking.
that.
I assumed they were Romulan just because of the cloaking devices.
Yeah.
And that could be.
So conversation moves on to Reed's great uncle, who also suffered from aquaphobia, but enlisted in the submarine service despite it. We get the story about how his submarine was on a routine patrol, got hit by a mine left over from one of the world wars, ironically the same situation they're now in, and he wound up in the sub, trapped under an ice shelf while their entire boat flooded. Mm-hmm. So Reed's great uncle then seals himself in the reactor room and kept it online long enough for the rest of the crew to evacuate.
Wait, they got hit by a mine under an ice shelf?
Yeah.
Who laid that mine? Another sub?
I would assume.
Huh.
Or maybe like the ice just froze over it at one point.
Huh.
Maybe there was another little ice age. Who knows? This is the point where I started to get a little frustrated with Reed. He's always just way too prepared to die, like in the name of duty.
Is this where we go back into being weirdly British?
I guess so.
Is that British? Oh, I guess for Queen and country and shit. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
We get some weird bathroom humor about Reed peeing in his EV suit.
Okay,
hey,
EV
Archer tells Reed all cool
it?
kids pee their pants.
Is that Billy Madison?
It is Billy Madison,
So,
yeah.
I had the same question that I think you're about to ask, Stanford. I'm pretty sure that like spacesuits in our time, you can pee in them.
So, fun fact. No, you cannot. They are catheterized.
Oh no.
Astronauts get fully catheterized before they go into a spacesuit. And if they have to poop, they have a diaper.
Nice.
Huh. Okay. Romulans call back. They want Enterprise to jettison their hull plate with the mine still stuck to Reed attached and just sacrifice Reed and then get out of the system.
I like how the Romulans know everything that's going on. They're just like watching, like, oh, look what they're fucking doing. That's great.
The problem is you're like, yeah, fuck that guy. Just throw him into space. It's
Sorry,
fine.
he exudes Britishness from here. Just get rid of him.
Archer finishes the defusal process, but turns out there's an emergency backup deep
Inevitable
in the mine that they
surprise
can't reach.
rearm sequence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Reed then argues once again that Archer needs to sacrifice him to save the crew. Archer refuses, so Reed yanks his oxygen tube out from behind his helmet.
My note here is like, it seems like the air hose should be a little harder to detach. Like,
yeah. One would hope. Archer shares some of his oxygen supply with him.
he's like, I'll bust your ass back to crewman. That's not how rank works. Reed was never a crewman. He's a fucking officer.
Yeah. And at this point, Archer begins to devise a fiendish plan. He goes back into the ship to get help from Trip and DePaul for execution, and in usual fashion, explains nothing to his entire crew.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure why he even needed to go back inside.
I don't know. He just tells Trip to get ready to detach the plating, and then, asks for some shuttle hull plates and wanders back out into space.
Oh, that's right. He needs the shuttle hull plates because, the shuttle hatch is going to be able to handle the explosion, unlike the whole-ass ship hull.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I like how he's like, can a shuttle hatch to withstand 20 kilotons or whatever the hell? Or half a kiloton or whatever it was. And Trip's like, depends on how close it is. And I'm like, yeah, that's how explosions work. Like this.
and here's the thing. They're in 0G right now. I thought about this after the fact. This is just like refrigerator logic. I don't understand why they didn't just like start doing a quick barrel roll and then just have them cut the mine off. And then the centripetal force will just like careen the mine off into space. Because like they're latched onto the ship with their magnetic boots. Like they're not going anywhere.
There were 3 spikes from the mine in the ship. So maybe like it's not a bad idea, but maybe they didn't have another crew member because they would have to cut them pretty quick in order to get around the mine that fast. They would need another person or 2.
I guess so. Maybe they've only got 2 EV suits.
See, but if they did that, they couldn't go explosion surfing.
That's true. That was way more exciting.
This is where I also want to point out, because at some point I'm going to probably do a deep dive on this. It's like explosions in space don't actually work.
No.
Yeah.
Romulans show up again, break out a cloak, and start charging weapons. This is the point where Archer rearms the mine and then cuts Malcolm free with his little laser cutter. And they pick up the shuttle plating that he had brought back with him and used it as shields against the mine while they like slowly float away, and then proceed to get blasted through space at high speed.
I also appreciate the fact that they had no intention of showing them being recollected by the Enterprise at all.
Of course not.
No, because they got
too much
scooped
CG
into
budget.
the shuttle bay or whatever, and they're like medical team to the shuttle bay, and they go down there, and then it's just like Phlox in a little box that I assume the medical team is like whatever critters he's got in his box.
Yeah, that's his medical staff. It's fine.
So apparently the Enterprise somehow just caught them moving at whatever speed they're moving at from the explosion, just with open shuttle bay.
Yeah, they punch in an impulse, they pass by them, and then they slow down and let them catch up again.
Oh yeah, like Lucille Ball in the two cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that works.
Fine.
Perfect logic. No nuts.
No, it's fucking better than Indiana Jones in the goddamn refrigerator. So,
I mean, not much.
Yeah. Travis, manages to hoover them back up into the launch bay and then punches the warp drive. And we get a touching and very awkward scene at the end between Reed and Archer, where Reed thanks him for his weird command style.
This is a question I'm going to ask, but I'm probably the one who would be best equipped to answer it. And I actually don't know the answer. But can they not go to warp with someone on the hull?
I guess not. I wonder if there's some sort of radiation
right. There's a warp
issue.
bubble around the ship. It's not like
theoretically
hugging
the space
the hull.
around the hull is actually the same space that the hull is in. It's not like getting warped by. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a warp bubble, not a warp condom.
A warp sleeve.
Gotta double wrap that, Chris.
Yeah, that's important.
It's one of those silicone laptop sleeves.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. So, ranking system. What do you guys give this one?
Our ranking system, of course, going from 1 to 5, where 0 is threshold.
Do
you want to hear my reasoning, Chris? Because I'm good.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to give it a 3 because it was just some pretty standard Star Trek schlock. But everything in it was so badly done that I had to pull it down to a 2. Every single moment was just bad.
It was just very, as I say, I was leaning towards 2 for this because it's just classic. Well, we need a high stakes situation. Bomb defusal.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole episode, all of the little bits of conflict just felt very contrived, especially when it's Hoshi can't answer the radio, up on the bridge, so we're just going to bring her the logs later. It was that kind of weird afterthought that just, I don't know, it made it feel kind of weak to me. I was very excited to see the Romulans, and then they weren't super threatening. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also give it a 2.
Sad 2.
Sad trombone.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just a big fat deuce.
We're going to take a break here, and we will be back for this week's deep dive. All right, welcome back. So for this week's deep dive, I thought we could go into a little Romulan history, seeing as this is the first time that we see some human-Romulan interaction, according to the Star Trek timeline. Although that's not entirely true. So I found out during the deep dive research that the Romulans were aware that humans existed because they had infiltrated the Vulcan High Command at this point. So more of a one-sided relationship there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that can't be very difficult because all that Romulan has to do is just be stuffy and obtuse about everything.
Yeah. So one other thing I found out.
I cannot lie.
Illogical. Eyebrow arch.
One other thing I found out about them is there is a slight change in appearance depending on where from Romulus you were from. They said that the Northerners had an extra set of ridges above their nose that the normal Vulcans and Romulans don't.
And then
So-
are those the big forehead lobe things going on?
I guess so.
Because they got some like weird forehead lobes going on a little bit. They're like
Yeah.
kind of Neanderthal the foreheads on some of them.
Yeah. I think that's where that comes from. That's the reasoning that they were given for, Star Trek lore, at least.
Are you going to go into like the actual history of the Romulan Empire? Because like I only know
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, okay, I only know like the vague concepts, and they all seem disjointed and annoying.
Actually, I say a little bit, but it's actually a lot of it. That's pretty much all that I do in this, yeah. Okay.
A little bit, about 45 minutes of it.
Yeah. So at this point, nobody on the non-Romulan side anyway is aware that the Romulans are the biological cousins of the Vulcans. The Romulan Star Empire, as most, I think, Star Trek fans know at this point, was formed as a subset of Vulcans that rejected Sirach's teachings of embracing like logic and rejecting emotion. They were called those who march beneath the Raptor's wing, which is where they kind of get their iconography from. And it's why all their ships are like avian inspired. I had to laugh because thinking back to it, the Vulcans were like very quick to point out the brutality of like nuclear war that humans waged on each other earlier in the show. They seem to forget the fact that they fought their own nuclear war against this splinter group of Vulcans before the Romulans abandoned Vulcan and settled Romulus and Remus. So like, not so different.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why are they called Romulus and Remus? And for that matter, why is Vulcan called Vulcan?
So I don't know about Vulcan, but the Romulan Star Empire, like with the original writers of the original series, it was supposed to be like Space Roman Empire.
Okay,
And
no. I get why the writers would do it. I mean, is there like an in-universe reason? Because
I didn't find one.
No, shut up. That's why.
Because the humans would be like, hey, does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
Because like T'Pol corrects Hoshi. Hoshi's like, it's the Romulans. And she's like, no, it's the Romulans. And it's like, oh, like Earth myth and like Rome? What the fuck?
Well, and it's funny because like they have a Senate that's led by a praetor. Like this is all clearly Rome inspired.
It's look, the original writers were just a bit too on the nose, and the rest of the Star Trek universe just had to roll with it.
Yeah. Yep. So aside from being, the Vulcan cousins, they play another important role in Star Trek lore. Spoiler alert, but apparently we get to see this play out in later episodes of Enterprise. There's a major war between United Earth and the Romulan Star Empire, right? Romulans didn't appreciate the peace that like Earth and humanity in general starts to spread around the Alpha Quadrant like a plague. So they plan on destabilizing the whole region.
A plague of peace.
Yeah. That eventually leads to an outright war between the new coalition of planets, not yet the Federation, and the Romulan Star Empire, which culminates in the Battle of Charon, which we get to see a little later on in this series.
Charon,
that whole
like
conflict.
Charon, like the boat person?
It's
Roman...
Cheron.
No, okay. Also, pro tip for anyone starting like a civilization, if you call yourself an empire, you're already the bad guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Like an empire is not a compliment.
I mean, they might think of it as one.
I was going to say, it depends on
Makes them
perspective, I
proud.
suppose.
I like how in this last season of Lower Decks, they kind of like go through a couple of the races as they're getting blown up by this ship. And like, they're like the epitome of like stereotypes of those races. And they did the Romulans. They're always like, my scheme is going to come to fruition. No, my scheme is coming to fruition first. It's like, you two stop scheming against me and come help me. It's like
the wiki talks about how like they're defined by their duplicitous nature. I was like, oh god, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. One of the ones that your schemes are barely even some word that's also schemes, but like, oh my god,
your schemes are barely ploys.
Something like that,
yeah. So this whole conflict and the success of the coalition is what directly leads to the formation of the United Federation of Planets. So we can thank the Romulans for making the Federation happen. It's almost like how this whole Russia war with Ukraine made more people join NATO.
I guess
like,
I don't remember well, but I thought the Xindi did that.
So it's funny, the Romulans used the Xindi as one of the instigating factors behind some of the scheming that they do, and tried to convince, I forget if it was the Tellarites and the Andorians, it was their fighting. They tried to convince one side that the other had received tech from the Xindi. So maybe that's where you're thinking of that.
Maybe. I just know the Xindi is such a huge part of seasons 3 and 4. I thought that I don't remember the Romulans being in this at all, but
they're not really.
Oh, well, they're cloaked.
They're just hanging.
They're in every scene. Yeah.
So oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say non sequitur here. It just reminded me. I saw a meme, a Star Trek meme the other day. It was yesterday. It was one of those changed my mind memes, and it was somebody saying the Federation of Planets or the Starfleet is a military. And I'm like, is that up for debate? Is that not?
Yeah, people don't think it's true, even though like Starfleet is clearly a military, and the Federation is clearly a military junta run by Starfleet. But like, it's fine.
What I saw that was interesting, that almost is perfect, is that a lot of people compared Starfleet to like the Imperial British Navy, in that it handled like commerce and exploration and like not just military.
But the thing is that like they control all of space travel inside the Federation to some degree. So like there is no space travel inside the Federation without Starfleet's nod and approval. That's the definition of like a military run government. Freedom of travel is like what defines, like the territories in which one is allowed to be.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
Anyway, it just made me think of your shtick on Starfleet as a military junta.
Yeah.
At some point, that deep dive will happen. I might be like, buckle up, everybody. It's going to be a long one.
Yeah. The air of mystique and intrigue surrounding the Romulans carried over into the post-war period as well. The two factions negotiated the Treaty of Algernon via subspace radio. So again, no one has ever seen what a Romulan looks like.
Did they bring flowers?
No.
No
take
flowers for Algernon?
God damn it.
I hate you. It would take another 100 years before humans would ever see a Romulan face. It didn't happen until the original series episode, The Balance of Terror. Among other things, the treaty establishes the neutral zone, banned Federation forces from developing cloaking technology, excluding that whole like device on loan to the USS Defiant in exchange for intel on the Dominion. And then formal diplomacy wouldn't return until the TNG timeline, when an attack on a Romulan outpost near the neutral zone by what was later found out to be the Borg forced like a Romulan diplomatic entreaty. So super weird.
The ban on the cloaking device I find to be very odd. It's very, you know what it is? It's very Cold War. Like,
yes.
Like that thought process of like, well, we're not allowed to build a missile defense system.
Right. And that's definitely what it was supposed to be a reflection of, for sure.
Because it's very, although I will say like it's odd, but it actually led to some fairly interesting like stories, because there was the whole thing with the, was it the Pegasus that John?
Yeah, the Pegasus with Riker.
That Riker was on. Yeah. And it was like that. It's like, it's just, I mean, it's not really cloaking, it's phasing. It's like they phase into a fucking asteroid. But then, there was a Romulan liaison on the Defiant whose entire job was to push the cloak button, because the humans weren't allowed to touch the cloak button.
Yeah. Oddly enough, they were banned from using it in the Alpha Quadrant. I think there's a couple episodes where they use it in the Alpha Quadrant, and they just,
I mean, if if anyone's gonna fuck around with their orders, it's the Romulan liaison, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
all you have to be is like, hey, we got this scheme we're working on. She's like, I'm all fucking in. Stop mining, you hit gold.
Yeah. So unsurprisingly, Romulans also had strained relationships with the rest of their neighbors as well. They had a short-lived alliance with the Klingons, who grew to resent the xenocentrism of their new friends and eventually began hating the Romulans even more than they hated the Federation.
Is that the pot calling the kettle black right there? Fuck.
Uh-huh. They also maintained a Cardassian embassy until the Romulans joined the Federation alliance in the Dominion War. They, of course, had their long-standing feud with the Vulcans until reunification kind of started to gain steam, which is something that Spock was trying to help foster that movement, right, as Ambassador Spock. That's, like, ultimately, once the Romulan star goes supernova, that's what kind of creates the Kelvin timeline. You know, Spock failed to actually save them, so a couple of them get punched into the other universe. Picard, in like the normal universe, winds up losing his bid to try and provide a rescue armada and resigned as part of his, threat to Starfleet. He winds up employing a couple survivors on his vineyard back in France.
Oh god, that's so weird.
Oh, it's so weird.
And then eventually, the Romulans are reunified with the Vulcans and move back to their former home.
Yes,
two
they're
factions.
called Navarro? Navarre. God damn, I can't believe I
they
pulled that out.
renamed the planet. And then, interestingly, I thought it was kind of cool. During the aftermath of the burn, the Romulans were the ones who argued for staying with the Federation, but they were overruled by the Vulcans.
Interesting.
And,
they also had apparently completely forgotten about their non-dilithium warp drive technology by then.
That was all lost when the star went supernova.
That's black holes, right? That's what they used?
They used contained unstable singularities, yes.
That's
which is why the Romulan ships are in like a constant state of about to explode. It's like an anti-spy technology. So like if there's an officer on the ship whose job it is to push a button every 5 minutes or whatever, and if he does not, the ship explodes. And it's so that no one can take their technology.
Nice. Well,
I believe there was an episode of either TNG or somewhere where they found a derelict like warbird, and it was like a big deal because it's like these always just explode.
Yeah, I want to say it was TNG. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was TNG because that's the only thing where I can think of like a warbird. It would either have to be TNG or DS9, and DS9 didn't have that kind of Romulan relationship, so I'm pretty sure it's TNG.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was TNG.
That sounds right. But yeah, there you go, Stanford. Little history on the Romulan Star Empire.
Interesting. Yeah. They are the best race to play in Birth of the Federation because all of their ships have cloaking, and that gives you first strike capabilities.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it was interesting seeing like notes on the wiki. One of them was how there used to be Vulcan fan clubs around the country, like during the time of the original series when it first aired.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of them like converted over to Romulan fan clubs, which was pretty fun.
Losers. It's almost as bad as having a podcast where you just rewatch all of Star Trek or some shit.
Right?
Nerds.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to take a little break here and come back for some potpourri.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So for this week's potpourri segment, what I wanted to do is a bit of a top 10 list. And
oh, those are always fun.
Yeah, top 10 list. Maybe not the exact best way to describe it. It's a list of 10 things that Hollywood gets wrong about bomb defusal. List of things they get wrong / annoy the crap out of me that is, that happens in like every bomb defusal scene.
What bombs aren't always like lament configuration like puzzle boxes that someone,
By the way, you've hit on number 10 already. Devices are all built one way. So obviously in movies, TV shows, when we get to the bomb defusal scene, it's always some thing. it usually has some type of timer on it, and there's some wires that the hero's got to cut to save everybody. Obviously, that's not true. IEDs, which is probably what we consider would be most of these bomb defusal things, these improvised explosive devices, come in many forms, not just your standard, tube with a timer and some explosives in it.
Yeah, where's the Romulan with the cell phone?
Oof.
So, gosh darn it, lost my train of thought here.
Wow,
Sorry.
man, Rob, you derailed him with your...
The reality is that there's as I said, there's more than one way to build a bomb, and they come in basically infinite ways, shapes, forms, and types of explosives even.
Well, it's convenient that they at least use the same color system for their wires, so we know which to cut.
Stop spoiling my goddamn wheels, sir.
It's fine. Like, everyone has studied the Anarchist Cookbook. They all do the same thing over and over again.
Red wires you gotta cut or whatever, yeah.
So number 9. Immediately defusing the bomb is always the right decision. So obviously when somebody encounters a movie, they always gotta, they unscrew the cover plate and they start to go into defuse it, which, logically, I suppose that makes sense. There's an explosive device there. You probably want to make it so it doesn't explode. In reality, some Joe Schmo isn't going to just jump in there and start working on it. Even if that Joe Schmo happens to be a cop, not every cop is trained to handle explosive disarmament.
Yeah, they're not all starship captains.
I was going to say, they can't all be
true.
Jonathan Archer.
They can't all be Jonathan Archer.
That's an interesting parallel, too, to another kind of trope in Hollywood, which is like when someone gets shot, and it's like, we have to get the bullet out. No, you don't.
No,
Leave it
it's
in
like,
there. It's totally fine.
It's a bit.
There are people who still have bullets in them from like wars and shit, and they're fine. It's you might need to get the bullet out eventually, but that's not something you have to do right in the goddamn moment. Like, get an X-ray machine.
That, or like removing objects somebody's been stabbed with. No, leave that motherfucker in there until you're at a hospital.
Well, unless it's an arrow or a crossbow, then you have to snap it and pull it through. Yeah. That's just science.
The other alternative is you just slap an arc reactor in your chest and it's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
It fucking worked. Yeah.
Exactly.
If he turned the magnet up higher, would it just cure him?
All right. So number 8, all bombs use wires. Obviously, not every bomb is going to have some wires running from point A to point B that just happen to, they manage to trigger. Maybe it's just some circuit board, some small circuit boards, some Raspberry Pi motherboard that somebody's programmed to manage the bomb's functions. There's not always going to be wires there for you to cut.
I don't think that's true. I think there's always wires, and they're color-coded for my convenience, just like dragons.
Number 7, wires are all red or blue.
There's green ones, too.
Yeah. You're really winning at this game, Stanford.
You really are,
good at bomb defusal.
So yeah, it's always, do I cut the red wire or the blue wire? Now, I will say I have seen some more recent examples where kind of shows or movies poke fun at that a bit. Where it's like they're all the same color, which I appreciate, but yeah, there is not always a red or blue wire to cut.
Yeah. I went to an ordnance training class, but all they did was teach me to take the I's out of the word.
I see what you did there.
I fucking hate that word. I never know how to spell it.
Number 6. While we're on the topic of wires, simply just cut the right wire, and the bomb is defused. That's not how things work.
No, it is. It's like in Star Trek, you just need more power. In bombs, you need less wire.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, you're right. So yeah, it's always cut the wire and everything's fine. Although I will say, this episode of Star Trek did not cut any wires.
There were there were wires if you looked. They were in the back of those little plugs he was using. But he did not cut any wires.
Yes, there was no wire cutting, which I did appreciate. Just some caliper gripping and turning of the wrong direction.
Yeah, defusing Romulan mines just involves a rigorous game of Bop It.
It's why is it always twisted?
All right, number 5 on a related note to this episode, mines just wait for somebody to step on them. That's not really how mines work. Yeah. Like some mines, sure. Some are, can be activated just by being in the area, are very sensitive and can be set off with it by stepping near them, not on them. Some are, attached to tripwires. Claymore mines obviously are a good example of this.
Does that include the myth of the, like, if you step on a mine, stand still and it won't go off? Because
absolutely it does.
Usually not true. There's like one mine in history that ever worked that way.
Yeah. But once again, it's an easy way to manufacture, a tense scene. So
right, yeah.
Hollywood writers going right.
Because, like, why would you need a mine to do that? Like, what is the usefulness of, like, no, we need to make sure that he steps off before we blow him up.
Mm-hmm. They manufacture them that way so that dramatic stories can be told in the future about them.
Let's see here. We're on number 4, I think. There's always a countdown timer on the bomb, which is just horrible and stupid. And why would you design a bomb that way? Just slapping a timer on the bomb so everybody knows when it's gonna go off.
And like and this is, again, like, I'm not like, I don't know shit about missiles and stuff, but they always seem to have timers on them too. Is that like a real thing? I assume not. Like, why would you put a timer on shit?
No, there's no point in doing that. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? You intend to blow up the bomb. Like, the timer's not going to survive. Well, actually, bomb parts usually survive surprisingly well, but
right. Yeah, and as somebody mentioned earlier, I forget which one of you is, a lot of times, especially nowadays, bombs don't have, like, countdowns. It's just they're activated by, like, phone call or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, this is just one of the pet peeves of bomb defusal scenes. The timer is diffused, or the bomb is diffused right at the last second, and it's like 1 or 2 seconds left on the clock every time.
Yeah, that's what those clocks are for.
Yeah.
This is a Galaxy Quest?
Yeah. As an allegory, if you cut the wrong wire, the timer speeds up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't just immediately explode.
No, it speeds up dramatically.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like 10 times as fast, and that little LCD screen just goes fucking whirring.
That was the one that was connected to the quartz.
Yeah, what the fuck?
All right. Where was I? I'm kind of loosely organized my thoughts, so sorry about this. Where was it? What about 3?
Teach you what a list is.
I think 3, yeah.
Yes, we're on 3.
I may have not prepared that well for this, okay? I think I kind of touched on this one already, but number 3, anyone can defuse bombs. There are very few people who actually have the ability to defuse a bomb.
Do you have any numbers on, like, how many bombs are actually diffused as opposed to ones that are just, like, put that big fucking heavy metal thing over it and then blow it up?
I don't. But I do know that the latter is the much more common scenario, and once again, you're spoiling my list. So stop it.
I'm sorry. I'm the worst at this.
Either the worst or the best.
Sounds
I can't
like
tell
I'm
which.
better prepared for this.
Oh shoot. Let's see here.
Stanford went to the Malcolm Reed ordnance disposal course, I guess.
The motto is, you're no match for our torpedoes.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking torpedoes.
Okay. Oh, no, wait. No, that was 2. So I'm on 1. So the top thing that bothers me the most about bomb defusal scenes in movies and shows / is the most inaccurate is that all bombs can be defused. Not all bombs could be defused. The much more common scenario, as you pointed out, Stanford, is to just safely detonate them. that is the much more common way bombs are handled.
That is how ordnance disposal works in the military.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, ordnance disposal in the military is not usually these fucking, like, time bombs and IEDs and shit. It's usually like, oh yeah, we set off a cluster munition, but for whatever reason they didn't go off. And so now there's little bomblets spread across this field we want to drive over, so we should probably get somebody to go take care of those.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually there's I forget the name of the vehicle. There's a vehicle out there that clears minefields, and the way it does it is it fires an explosive net over the field and then detonates it, and it blows up all the mines.
Huh.
You know, I was about to Google percentage of bombs that are diffused as opposed to safely detonated, and I feel like I'm going to get an FBI list. I've been Googling too much stuff about bombs.
Yeah,
oh,
probably.
man. When I was working on a cyberpunk D&D setting, I was like, you know, what caliber of ammo will go through a flak jacket? I'm on a list right now.
So as this list summarizes, Hollywood loves to make a bomb defusal scene very tense and, you know, high drama, and more often than not, it is just a safe disposal by safely detonating it, and not a defusal. So I'm tired of it. It needs to stop.
Oh man, here.
My favorite mine defusal solution. Do you guys remember when we used to play Company of Heroes? They had that one modification you could put on the Sherman.
Oh yeah, little like
a wheel of chains.
Yes, there's a name for that. The chains. Are they daisy chains? No, there's something else. There's another name for it. But those serve two purposes.
Yeah, work pretty well on soft tissue.
Yes, they did. It's like the quad anti-aircraft guns. It's like, oh, I never shot an airplane down with them.
War crimes are funny.
Well, now I don't feel good. And my issue is, and I guess you kind of touched upon it, but not really, is like, my issue is always like the complicated, like multi-step procedures to like this episode's a great example of like, you have to pull these pins out and turn them counterclockwise and then push them back in a specific sequence, a sequence that Reed learned by studying a schematic,
right.
That he scanned. But like, I know very little about like electrical circuits, but I know enough to know that that's fucking stupid. Like, this isn't a video game. This isn't an 18th century French safe that you have to like twirl the thing. Right. And it's like, if you have the kind of thing where you need a safety switch, you want it to be not very fucking complicated, because you need someone to be able to goddamn turn it off if there's a problem. But like, I assume the minefield doesn't have that issue. So like, why? What the fuck are we doing here?
What are we doing?
We're playing Bop It.
Like what kind of factory assembled those? It's like, oh yeah, this is the part of the factory where we have to delicately spin the relays in a sequential order and then plug them into the. What the fuck? What?
Yep. So Hollywood, suck it is what we're saying.
Can't wait till we get to a good hacking scene.
Oh god,
they do bomb defusal shit a lot in this show, don't they? Because there was the Kelvin timeline one.
Yeah, it's definitely
what can
not
these
the first
legendary
one.
hands do for you, Doc? Carl Urban's fucking fantastic.
Yeah, he is. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for my top 10 list for our Potpourri segment. Any final thoughts, guys?
Gotta diffuse the situation here.
I hate you.
Boo.
Oh man.
Putrescence.
Oh man, it's we're actually gonna record again tomorrow night, so I have to watch Star Trek 2 days in a row. We had a friend over today, and it was around like 2:00, and I'm like, hey, sorry, I have to go watch Star Trek.
It's really important.
It's really important.
So important.
And speaking of Star Trek and watching it, we have not yet tried the new Star Trek game from Paradox. Apparently it had some bugs, and I was told by a person I know who works for Paradox to like give it a couple of days so I can patch it. So at some point in the not too distant future, once we can finally stop playing Space Engineers, which we've been playing the hell out of, maybe we'll boot that up and give y'all a review.
Oh yeah, we should when we make our Klingon bird of prey, we gotta post some pictures for the podcast.
Oh, yeah. We're going to do that in Space Engineers. It's going to totally look great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're definitely. I'll just have on standby a picture of a bird of prey that I'll just say like, yeah, we made this. It's like,
just like from the internet.
it's amazing. Like we're so good at this game.
Just like draw one on a piece of paper and then tape it to a popsicle stick.
It's crazy. We got even Christopher Lloyd to be in it right there.
All right. Well, we will catch you guys next week.
Don't forget to rate and review.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely do that. Yep. We're a professional podcast. Shut up.
We are so good at our jobs. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.